Okay guys, are we ready? We are out here about to go plant years worth of onions in the pouring rain because why not? Well, actually there's a few reasons why. One is because they've been out here for a while, they're getting drenched, and I need to get them in the ground. This is a perfect day to get them in the ground. It's not great working, but it'll be okay. So if you've been following along, I started my onions back in February. I also had left them in the greenhouse without venting them, started them indoors, left them in the greenhouse without venting them. One day, killed quite a few. They were already on the struggle bus, so there's that. And I still have a lot of my storage onions, so I'll show you what I got left. The tag, these are the red wings onions, so we still got a little bit of those. These are the storage. We got Patterson and yellow of Parma, yellow Spanish, and this is what's left of my Walla Wallas. Fortunately for me, I bought starts of Walla Wallas and they're planted in the bed right next door. But I'm gonna get to work. Faster I get done, faster I get out of this rain, faster I get to go take a hot shower. Also today we had our baby calf. It's May 4th, so I'm out here just kind of dealing with that. I don't think it'll be on this video, but it could be. I'm gonna set you up on a time lapse as I go through this lovely bed and plant a year's worth of onions. Oh my gosh, I am disgusting and wet and sloppy, and got all my onions planted. There's 4 rows of onions, which you can kind of see them, sort of. So we have yellow Parma is the first row, then Patterson, then yellow Utah Spanish, yellow Spanish, something Spanish, and red wing. So I lost a lot of my red onions. I'm going to direct sow them in the same bed. I still have about 2 rows I can do, so I'm going to do that. But there is a year's supply of storage onions for my family right there. So that is pretty amazing. I, though, am not going to plant those onions by seed today because I want to go shower, take a hot shower, get cleaned up, have a hot cup of tea, and enjoy this rainy day from the inside, and also check on my cows. The onion starts, I wanted to talk about this. Some of my onion starts are super puny. So what I'm still learning, they were really puny. Now I made a couple mistakes and I'll just share those with you. So 1, I think I can start them earlier. 2, I'm gonna put them in, instead of using my thin trays, if I get something with more soil. I have a bunch of 6-packs, which would give them a little more soil. And if I multi-sowed them in the 6-packs with like 3 but it would take more time. But if I'm planting earlier in February, it really won't matter because I'm so desperate to just start gardening. I think I'll be fine. By the time I move them, by the time I'm ready to start tomatoes, I'll move these out to the greenhouse. So another mistake was obviously not opening up my greenhouse and venting it. I probably need to put the shade cloth on in March for the onions. And that sounds silly because it's pretty early, but it gets so hot even in the 60 degrees. Also, more consistent fertilizing I could do better with. And then the deer had broke into the greenhouse and nibbled them down a bit. But I'm not going to plant them in potting soil next year. I'm going to use some garden soil, whether that be compost or whatever. I'm going to use some garden soil just to help them out a bit. So that's kind of where I'm at. Those are my mistakes. This is what I've learned this year. This is my 5th year growing onions, and I learn something new every single year. I modify it each year because I learn more. Just like when you start gardening, same thing will happen to you. And what works for me may not work for you. These were a little spindly this year. They were last year too, and they did great. But I would love to have them where they're like starts you buy from the store, where they look really good. Now I'll show you my onion starts. These are Walla Wallas, and I told you that got sun skulled, and they're looking pretty sad, some of them. But I'll also show you what is happening that I'm not worried about them. This happens every year. I always have a little bit of doubt, gardener's doubt. I think a lot of us, you plant something, you're like, I just killed it all, or they're never going to come back. And it's just constant doubt. You never really arrive and think, oh, this is the year I'm going to know exactly what I'm doing. Something throws you a curveball. You're always learning. It happens again and again. You're always learning. And the weather patterns, everything makes a difference. So like I planted these last week when I was really I thought I should plant all of my starts, which I was glad I didn't, but these ones got fried. So these, you can see, this is just fried. But then I want you to see this guy. He was also fried, and he's growing again. And that's what's basically happening. They're going to have quite a bit of rootstock down in here, which is great, and they're going to start fresh. So eventually you can clip this off if you want. I wait a bit. Like this guy, fried, also got some life coming back in. Same with this guy, and same with the majority of these onions. And this, even this guy. So they're coming back. I'm not worried about these at all. What survives. They're so cheap. You get, for like $2-3, you get 50 to 75 of these onion starts. They're a great deal. Wilco and Bend has had them. I don't know if they still do. You can order them online. I obviously prefer to start them from seed, but I did kill all my wallows. I have a handful I need to plant before I walk out of this garden. I pulled them out. They're the lone survivors. You want to see them? This is all that survived from my Walla Wallas. So I'm just going to plant them real quick. And as I planted my onions, you can multi-sow them, which just means like you can do 3 to 5 in a bundle. What I realized last year, I really packed them in my small ones, and I purposely chose this larger bed so that I could space them out a little more, get them a little more sunshine. I had some great bulbs last year, but in the center of the beds, they got pretty puny. And that's what I'm trying to avoid this year with planting in a bigger space and trying not to congest them so much. But the longer I was planting, the more multi-sowing I was doing, because I was just so sick of sitting here in the wet rain planting them. But I was so glad I did, because a lot of them, they were starting, hold on, I gotta separate these. A lot of them were starting to get root rot, which is exactly what you don't want. They've been sitting out here getting hardened off for the last week and a half, which is great. But because of the rain, we've had some soggy days this week, and the roots were starting to be affected by it. But this rain, because of all the seeds I planted this week, I didn't get all of them done yet. It's still only Thursday. Tomorrow I'll be planting some more. I'll finish out this side of the bed, finish out this side of the garden, which is the smaller beds. I have 2 left, and I'm gonna do the first 2 beds on both sides of my greenhouse are gonna be filled with sunflowers, which I think is gonna be really beautiful. And then the second bed in, I'm going to do Brussels sprouts because it is our family favorite. So if we could have as much Brussels sprouts as we want fresh, that's ideal. But then I'll freeze them too. We eat frozen ones in off season. I think Brussels can store on their stalks. If you have any experience with that, leave it in the comments below. I'd be super curious to know. But, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Oh, there's a bald eagle. Do you see him? Beautiful. Bald eagles. This is totally off topic. There he goes. When I was a child, we lived in a little town called Brownsville, Oregon. It's in the valley. And we moved into this farm, and it was surrounded by sheep herds. And in the spring, the sheep would give birth, and bald eagles, this is a terrible story, bald eagles would come in, swoop down, grab up the lambs, drop them on the ground, and proceed to eat them. And I was like a small kid, like kindergarten, first grade when we lived there. And we would run out, jump over the fence, and I think my sister would do it. At least I was out there. I was a crazy lunatic out there chasing away these bald eagles before they'd swoop in and get these lambs. So they're so beautiful and majestic, and we live in an area where we see them often. I've actually never seen one fly over my property. I see them out in the BLM, which is Bureau of Land Management. I see them out there a lot, but that was cool to see one flying over. So anyway, they're beautiful, majestic, very American, very patriotic, but also very, very aggressive. Gotta watch out for those bald eagles, man. So thank you guys. I wonder if he smells my calf. Surely he couldn't lift up a calf. She's in the barn anyway. Oh, my GoPro's out here. I almost left it out here. It died, so I had to start transition to my phone. My nicer camera can't be out in the rain. I need that. So thank you guys so much for following along with me. I'm enjoying this dreary, dreary day. Of course we would have a calf on this day. Rain wasn't even in the forecast for today, but here we are. Well, it was just supposed to not start till 2. Then my husband calls on the way to work and goes, Kai, I went out there. Trey forgot something. I took something out to his car, and then I went out and checked, which I have been doing every day, every night, sometimes up in the middle of the night, checking on Mia to see if she calved. And then this morning I walk over there thinking nothing, and there's a baby on the ground. So I end up calling Trey and telling him there's a baby. He comes driving back home just to see the baby, and then calls me on his way to work and says, there is a huge rainstorm, and I think it's coming our way, which it did. Thank you guys for following along with me, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye, guys.